Hey there, it's Irene Lyon and welcome to this video, to this channel, and to this world of healing trauma, nervous system health, and all the things neuroplasticity. First off, if you are new here, welcome to this channel. Be sure to subscribe to it and also click the notification bell. That makes it such that when I do release a new video or I go live or I post something in the community part of the YouTube world, you are notified. The second thing, if you haven't yet subscribed to my email list, I know that's a little archaic, but we still send out emails and it is the best way to be informed of these videos, online offerings, and anything else that I am up to, whether it's a workshop, an online summit I'm on, etc., etc. So that is done on my website. It is linked near this video. You just go to my site, you scroll to the bottom, and on the bottom of every page is a place where you put your name, your email, and then we will connect with you every week. So today what I wanted to do is get into one of the things that I saw this week. I've seen a few things this week that sparked me to want to make this video and a few others that I will do after this. And that is why when we start working with ourselves at this somatic level, nervous system level, all the traumas, stored traumatic stresses that we store inside, why when we do this, we start to get more tension. And by tension, I mean body tension, muscle tension, joint tension, fascial tension. So the fascia that is wrapped around our insides, our muscles, etc. And from what I've learned and from what I've studied and my own personal experiences, we start to feel these patterns of tension that were actually in our bodies for a very long time. So I'm going to use myself as an example. So I'm going to date this right now. It is end of March 2021. We're heading into spring here in the Northern Hemisphere. And over the past 12 to 16 months, my body has been going through some insane patterns of tension from past accidents. Is there one accident? God, no. I grew up figure skating, which is being on ice with skates, jumping into the air and obviously falling a lot when you're learning. I also grew up downhill skiing. I ski raced. I talk about this in some of my in my About Me page, but I have experienced with the figure skating world, the skiing world, and I was a hardcore skier, dropping down chutes, skiing lots of bumps. I have had concussions, I have had whiplashes, I have had 2 broken bones, and 5 knee surgeries. I also used to paraglide, which is where you run off of a hill with a big parachute wing and you glide in the air. I've had near-death experiences in the air. I've been whipped in sheer layers of air with a helmet on my head. So I'm painting the picture here. I've had a lot of physical trauma, a lot of shock to my body. So shock trauma is one of the common traumas us humans get. And I talk about this in greater detail in something that I'm going to mention, just so I don't forget, my 3-part healing trauma series. I'll link it below. Get into that if you haven't yet. It's a complimentary series. It'll give you what you really want to understand and know around how trauma gets stuck in our body and how we have trouble healing, but then of course what we need to do to heal. So be sure to check that out. But back to my example. So needless to say, I've had a lot of intense stuff happen to my body when I was young, when I was a teenager, when I was in my 20s, and even in my early 30s. I did not understand the ramifications of not taking care of myself afterwards. Typically when you're young, you kind of brush it off, you don't think about it. But I do have memories in my 20s of waking up after a really big ski day or after being whipped in snow and feeling all these muscles around my neck so sore to the touch. But you're young, you got stuff to do, you got to go to school, you got to go to work, you go and you kind of push. So when we override, when we push past what the body might need to heal, and trust me, we do this all the time, it stores inside these patterns of shock and tension get stored in our body. And so part of this work is knowing and almost anticipating that day that comes, or for me this past year, it has been a year of unlocking serious tension patterns within my physical system. Now, if you have been following me for the last year, it's possible that you wouldn't have known that. And that's because while I'm feeling these tensions, I am still cognitively in tune. My system is regulated. So my nervous system is regulated. But that doesn't mean regulation of the nervous system doesn't necessarily mean that all of the old traumatic events and shock traumas have been purged, released, and integrated. There is at this point, no science, no methodology of researching this, from what I know, where we can send a little beacon into our bodies and it spits out a printed thing that says you have this many things to work on, this many accidents that you haven't worked on. I sure as hell cannot tell you how many times I fell figure skating or skiing where I whipped my head, or where I was falling out of the sky in a spiral that was full of force, where I hit the ground hard, where I landed on my tailbone hard. There are too many of them. But when you understand, as you're learning here, that these old hits, shocks, traumatic things do store up in the body when we haven't worked with them when they occur, all I can say is know that they will probably start to come out, and it's a good thing. We want them to come out because when they stay inside, lots can happen. Now, of course, this is again where it's like, well, what happens, Irene? And I say, it really depends on your predisposition. I have talked to some of my mentors who are convinced, and also some of the books that I've read, specifically the book Trauma Spectrum by Bob Scaer, that a lot of our tics and things like torticollis, where the spine gets stuck in a certain way, even things like Parkinson's, and just responses that seem neurologically not sound. So behaviors in the body that are abrupt, that just don't seem smooth, could be a result, an after effect, a byproduct of these stored shock traumas not coming up and out of our body. Now, I wish this was an exact science, but it isn't. But I've worked with enough people and I've experienced my own body enough to know that if we have had a past of a lot of heavy physical events where we are being hit, where we are being put through the ringer, so to speak, through sport. I've worked with some people who were high-level gymnasts, high-level mountain bikers, people that have really just gone for it and they haven't taken care of their system, usually because they were too young, right? You're in a coaching situation, an Olympic athlete situation, and you fall and the coach is like, get up, no time to cry. And that is exactly what it was like when I was learning how to figure skate. You did not lay on the ice and just cry and wait for the pain to go away. A, you would get hit by another skater, but B, it's just not what you did. You got up and you stuffed that stuff inside. So one of the reasons why I really hope, if you know that you've got these things that you have stored in your system, or maybe now you're starting to feel these tension patterns and you're like, I don't think I want to do this anymore, because a lot of times people won't go to the end to work on these. I'm here to say, if you can take it slow, if you can be gentle with your body, if you can get into the work that I do, if you can find a good body worker that is trauma informed and understands the nervous system, do so. And the reason why, as I said, our predispositions to neurological problems, to health problems, when this stuff is stored inside, we have got so much added stress in our bodies that we are more susceptible to popping some kind of illness or disease later in life. We know this through something called the ACE study, the Adverse Childhood Experiences study. Now, while that study didn't look at shock traumas and the kind of physical events I'm talking about, the system still goes into dysregulation. It is still in a freeze, often a functional freeze milieu, if you will. And I've done another video on functional freeze. I'll pop it below. But these things add up. And if anything, when we have these traumas, these shocks, these strains in our body, it doesn't allow us to feel in the right way. One of the kind of hallmarks of a lot of shock trauma, things that I have had, is a lot of tension. As I've mentioned, it's because the body has armored itself. And when it knows that it might fall again, it might get that whiplash again, it starts to create this, it's like a crust, if you will, this armoring so that nothing gets in. And that isn't just physicality, that is emotions, that is being able to relate to the world. So when I was in my 20s, while I was intelligent and had lots of social connections, I definitely did not have the intelligence in my emotions that I do now. There's no way I could have done a video like this. There's no way that I would have that level of just feeling all the feels in my body. That armoring that my system had due to the sport also hindered my ability to feel the emotions, to connect relationally, all these things. So know that while I'm talking from a physical point of view and the physical pain and tensions that we might start to feel and experience as we get into this work while it's physical, it also impacts the emotional, it impacts the relational, and it impacts the ability for us to connect to our environment, which we really need so that we can stay safe and, of course, enjoy the environment. And then the final thing I'll say, and I've sort of alluded to it, is when we are in this work, so let's say you're in this work and you are feeling the level of discomfort. And I'll tell you, the last year I have woken up not being able to move my head past here. True story. Not being able to look down. This was just even a few weeks ago, right? It can sometimes be very alarming and worrying, and we are like, oh gosh, something's wrong. Did I hurt myself? I can guarantee you, at least in a situation where you know you haven't actually been in an accident the day before, you haven't kinked your neck, you haven't lifted a heavy box, you haven't gone for, a 5-hour workout, and you wake up and you feel like you literally have gone for a 5-hour workout, or you've been hit in a car accident, and you feel this inability to move your neck, your jaw, everything is tense all the way down the spine. There is a strong possibility that is old tension, old armoring patterns, old fight, flight, freeze energy ramping back up, visiting you because you didn't feel it when it originally occurred. And if you can be gentle with yourself, if you can take it easy, if you can take the day off, if you can get into a bath of warm water, if you can move really gently, if you can get some really gentle body work, something to just be with the tension and not try to get rid of the tension, it will allow that tension pattern to unravel and leave and literally exit the building. To go back to my own system, 12 or so months ago, it's more like 14 months ago, when I would wake up or when I would feel these patterns, it was all the way down my spine, all the way through every part of my trunk and core into my legs. And slowly over the course of last year, it shifted so that it became more specific to one area. Then it was the shoulder, then it was that shoulder, then it was the neck area, then it was the jaw, and then it kind of popped. And that's when we know that this is often old tension patterns, when they don't make any sense. Now, of course, if you hurt yourself in now time, right? Let's say you do get, knock on wood, that doesn't happen, but let's say you do get into an accident, you do have a fall, you do hit your hip or something, you do get a whiplash, take care of it. Rest, stay home, do gentle stuff, get some very soft body work. Don't ignore the pain. If we can allow ourselves to feel the acute shock trauma and give ourselves the time to heal, then we won't trap that pattern inside and have to deal with it in 30 years or 20 years like I have. So if you have kids, if you have teenagers, if you have a friend who's just gotten into an accident, share this video with them. urge them to take care of their bodies. I know we tend to, as humans, be like, I don't need to take care of this now. I'm walking, I didn't die, my heart's still beating, I'm not bleeding out, I'm fine. This is a very common human trait, to just push through, brush it off, be the hero, I'm okay. If you can take the time in that moment to heal and rest and nurture yourself, it's that much riper to come out and leave the system, as opposed to waking up one day in 20 years and going, where did this come from, right? Luckily, you're learning about this now. You now know that it might be after you do one of my neurosensory exercises in one of my courses, or maybe you're listening to one of my videos and all of a sudden something sparks in your memory and the next day you're in a pain response, or maybe you're seeing a practitioner and something opened up and you wake up the next day and then you go, oh gosh, this is that thing. This is that series of whiplashes I had. This is that car accident from that time. This is that this. Then we make a connection and then we don't think we're crazy or that we did something that we have forgotten that we did, if that makes sense. So wanted to just pop in and share a little bit of something that I have been working with the past year. As I mentioned, these things can still come up even when we have high level regulation within our nervous system. And it's nothing to be afraid of, but it's something to be aware of so that we do the right things so that we don't keep that stuff trapped inside. And right now, I've never felt better. I still have a few kinks and things to work out. We'll see how long it takes to get rid of these accidents and traumas and whiplashes and concussions. Hopefully not too much longer. I'll keep you posted. And for now, take care of yourself. Get into some of those added resources that I've already mentioned. We'll put them all below in the show more section. And keep learning, keep healing, and share this knowledge with people. Really, if we can get to these things when they happen at the beginning, it just saves a lot of pain and suffering down the road. All right, thanks so much for listening, you guys. We will see you next time.